Welcome to the Blue Security Podcast, a weekly podcast for information security defenders, where we bring you discussions on best practices, tools, and implementation for enterprise security. Now, here are your hosts for today's show, Andy Jha and Adam Brewer.
Welcome to another episode of the Blue Security Podcast. I'm Andy, your host.
I'm Adam, your co-host.
This is going to be the last one for the year here, and we are going to do some predictions. And so I came across this Forbes article about forecasts for 2026. I thought it was super interesting, so we're going to just talk through them and kind of give our thoughts on where we think cybersecurity is going to be in 2026. So their first one on the list was agentic AI will become the new attack and defense frontier. I don't think we need to be like clairvoyant or anything to know that this is where it's going. Both attackers and defenders will start using autonomous agentic AI systems. Attackers are going to use this to explore, adapt, and exploit, while defenders utilize them to monitor, detect, and contain. The attackers are going to use AI bots for reconnaissance, move laterally, steal data quicker than human-run operations can respond. And so one of the things that companies need to do is transition from viewing AI as an enhancement to considering it as part of the architecture. So definitely, as part of Ignite, when we did our Ignite episode, and some predictions from Alex Weinhardt, like earlier in the year, agentic AI is going to be that next frontier. And yeah, I think this is spot on here for number one.
Agree. And by the way, since I just want to bring this up, Andy and I both work for Microsoft in our field security sales. We do the show outside of work on our own time and self-fund the show. The opinions we're sharing on this show are those of Adam Brewer and Andy Jha, and not those of Microsoft Corporation. With that said, you mentioned Ignite. We announced Security Copilot is being included with Microsoft 365 E5 licenses now. And I think a big part of that move was because it simplifies the model for the Security Copilot agents, which are not a flying car and are a real thing you can use right now as you're listening to this show. For example, if you want an agent to crawl through all of your data loss prevention and data security alerts, you can do that. If you want an agent to crawl through your phishing reporting queue, where all your users have reported potential phishing emails to you that are really the New York Times newsletter they signed up for and now don't want to get, you can have an agent crawl through that and flag the legitimate true positives that your humans need to review further. So I get it. As cybersecurity defenders, we are natural skeptics, as we should be, but this is not a flying car. This is a real thing that is coming fast and furious. And so the time to wrap our arms around it is as soon as possible and be able to implement a lot of this into our existing mental models and processes. And one of the things our employer believes is the best way to secure agents is really through the same tool sets that we already use for securing humans. So the same identity platform you already use, and some of the same controls you already have in place, and adapting those for agent type experiences. So absolutely, this is going to be really, really important for defenders to wrap their arms around, because this is going to be, to your point, not just an enhancement, but a critical part of your cybersecurity infrastructure and architecture moving forward. It's just going to be a need to have, not a nice to have. And the sooner we adapt that change, the better off we'll be.
So number two on the list here is quantum computing has been a threat for a long time. It's been looming kind of in the horizon there, but in 2026, we might reach a turning point where that time for harvest now, decrypt later assaults will get shorter, and moving to post-quantum cryptography will become more important. We just talked about, again, a few weeks ago, where China harvested a bunch of data from British citizens, where a lot of it was encrypted. And so this is happening quite a bit. We talk about China playing that long game, where they're just going to harvest all this information once quantum computing is available that can decrypt modern encryption. Then they'll be able to parse through that data, and which of course will get a lot easier with AI. And so that risk of like stolen private information today getting decoded tomorrow, that risk is getting shorter and shorter. And so It's showing up in like older encryption methods like RSA and ECC, and companies who aren't keeping track of their crypto footprint are at risk. And so for 2026, perform a crypto inventory where you have high value keys, systems, and protocols that still depend on weak schemes, and start using that post quantum algorithms. We just had a show on the OWASP top 10. Number 4 is that cryptographic failure. Uh, you're this could be considered, I wouldn't say it's a cryptographic failure today, but, as you're doing that inventory of your DevOps, start testing your software, your coding with the new quantum resistant algorithms, which already, like if you are testing Windows and you're doing like the early alpha versions of Windows, we have baked in support for post quantum encryption algorithms into Windows already. So you can start testing that today and kind of get ahead of this so that you have post quantum resistant encryption algorithms built into your inventory already.
Technology is interesting in the sense of how major innovations come to market. And quantum computing obviously gets a great deal of attention because it represents such a turning point, not just for cyber defenders. Obviously, we have the major risk of all of the harvest now, decrypt later attacks, and the loss of such a foundational element of modern cybersecurity, which is cryptography. And we have this confidence that today, if something is encrypted, we are very confident it cannot be decrypted through currently accessible technology. And so the thing with quantum, you look at recent innovations, really industry changing, world changing innovations, like the iPhone, as an example. It was announced in January of 2007 and it went on sale June 29th of 2007. Ultimately, Apple used almost entirely off the shelf technology to build the iPhone. There was nothing in it that was truly like massively innovative. The software probably was the most innovative part, but even that was a continuation of the work they had done for many years on OS 10 and Mac OS 10, coming off of the acquisition of Next in 1997 and turning that into that modern Mac OS operating system and building it on the FreeBSD foundation and building their own kernel and all the work they had done. And they had secretly kept it multi-architecture the whole time. So even though Macs up until that point had always been PowerPC enabled until the Intel switch like a year prior, being able to run it on ARM, again, it was designed to be multi-platform from the get-go. So whether it was running on PowerPC or X6 or ARM, it could run on anything. And it was all of that work was put into place ahead of time, and it just all came together. It all coalesced at one moment. And you look at ChatGPT, maybe one of the more recent innovations in the late fall of, was it 22 when it really came to market? And then it was early 23 that everything kind of changed. That was GPT-3 initially when it was released. And then GPT 3.5 quickly followed. And so obviously those weren't the first general purpose transformer models that had come to market. It was the first one that hit that like tipping point where the technology and the implementation had all coalesced. The other thing again with ChatGPT that was innovative was they wrapped it in a consumer friendly interface. Just go to this website and you can talk with it, you can chat with it. It was a chatbot kind of model. And so that was very easy for people to wrap their brains around. But there had been GPTs before it. There had been general purpose transformers before it, but the interaction models with them were more obtuse. You had to download it and compile it and do all this stuff. And it was that new interaction model and everything coming together that changed that. And of course, it had to come at a time when GPU capabilities were capable of doing the training and inferencing needed. And so my point is with quantum, you may think we're going to have this big lead up to when crap, our encryption's broken. We're going to see it coming. And we may, because there still needs to be some incremental progress in quantum computers before that's really a risk. But there comes the question on are we just one or two breakthroughs away from that light bulb coming on, from that inflection point happening? And throughout the time of technology, even though these things look like moments, we obviously know the iPhone took years to develop. We know there were years of development at OpenAI to reach that ChatGPT moment. Some of these things still fly under the radar. And although there's this big, kind of very public competition to develop quantum technology, IBM is doing it. Microsoft has had major innovations in it. Google has had major innovations in quantum. And they all kind of take turns like leapfrogging each other. IBM will announce this one that can handle this many qubits. And then Microsoft will say, well, we put this on a chip for the first time. And then Google will come out with a great announcement. And so there's this very public competition here to get there. Will we see it coming? I don't know. I'm not sure we will, because even though we should have had all these signals that ChatGPT was coming, we didn't really see it coming. And although we should have had all these signals that all these pieces had come together, Apple has this cross-platform operating system that can run on any architecture. And Apple's done great job in miniaturization of technology, and they keep making stuff smaller. And capacitive touch screens are now available. And ARM CPUs have dramatically improved over the years. And all of this miniaturization had happened. We still didn't see that someone was going to put this all together in a single holistic package and wrestle industry control away from the telcos that had completely controlled everything that happened on their networks up till that point. We didn't see all of those things happening all at once. So getting off my soapbox, point is, I know quantum sometimes feels like this thing that's way in the future that I don't have to worry about. And I'm not saying you need to drop everything and worry about it right now, but I think we do need to start giving this some more attention and some more focus moving forward.
Okay, number 3 on their list is deepfakes, synthetic media, and identity deceptions are going to be on the rise. So the border between genuine and fake is going to be harder to see. In 2026, attackers will use incredibly fake but believable audio, video, identity constructions as weapons in ways that standard detection can't find. Business email compromise will also worsen because audio and video conversations that appear to originate from executive and service providers will be a lot harder to tell if they're fake or true. Biometric and identity verifications will also be susceptible to spoofing using manufactured identities or copied biometrics. So some things to think about: use ongoing authentication if at all possible instead of that one-time check, and then add some anomaly detection to speech and audio authentication systems to identify vocal behaviors that deviate from the norm. Yeah, I definitely think this is something that is going to be used quite a bit, and I worry about it all the time. You know, not even just in a corporation, but I also worry about it from a personal standpoint, right? Like someone spoofing my voice in a call to my kids or something like that. So, just as a personal note, I have like a safe word with my kids. You know, if they ask me, what is this word, and the bot or whatever doesn't know it, then that's a way to authenticate that. So yeah, this is definitely something that corporations need to worry about, and also just in general, I think citizens need to worry about it as well.
This is already a huge, huge problem. I listen to a lot of local sports podcasts here in the state of Iowa. We right now are in a renaissance period in which my alma mater, Iowa State University, has an undefeated men and women's basketball program. Our women's program is ranked 10th in the country, has one of the best players in the country in Audie Crooks, and the men's program is ranked 4th in the country. And Audie Crooks is an incredible basketball player, and very likable local Iowan. Grew up here in small town Iowa, going to the premier women's basketball program in the state. There are all these just AI slop generated posts on Facebook that'll say Audie Crooks is buying a children's hospital, or Audie Crooks is donated 500 Xboxes to homeless shelter, or just random, and it's so clearly AI slop. And the Facebook audience today tends to be boomers and older generations. Obviously, young people have really abandoned that platform, and they just eat this stuff up. They fall all over themselves. And one of the local sports podcasts was saying they could literally do a show just reading how hilarious these fake posts are on Facebook that Audie Crooks did this or Audie Crooks did that. And it's not even good, Andy.
Mhm.
To anyone that's a remotely trained eye for AI generated text or AI generated images, it's so obviously fake. And we have people who it's not their fault, but they have not been trained on how to detect it or how to find it, and just tend to believe everything they see on social media. Which, side note, is low key hilarious, because these were the ones that warned us you can't trust anything on the internet all growing up, and then they're the ones who go on the internet and believe everything they see. Anyhow, it doesn't even have to be sophisticated, is my point. And people will absolutely fall all over it. Now, are they taking action over it, or are they just liking it and putting a comment of, "Oh, Audie is so great. We love her. What an amazing person." Like, yeah, she's getting some name, image, and likeness money, but not enough to go buy a hospital or something. And people, their brains are off. They're not even thinking like, is this possible?
I'm hoping that there's like a backlash, because I know for myself, as well as I've seen articles, if I come across like a clearly AI generated piece of content, I'm not even, I actually have
Next.
a physical revulsion to it. I'm like, oh, this is
Yes.
gross,
Yes.
And
Yes,
like
100%.
people have that. I think they were upset at like Coca-Cola or something like that had an AI generated ad. And like when I see commercials that look clearly AI generated, I'm like, I want real content, right?
Yeah. And I've said that on this show. I think there will
Yeah.
be a backlash where we will really start to even more greatly value human generated content like you and I do. Now, we use AI to help produce the show and get it out on our channels, but this is a very human product.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in some ways, it's a very low tech show still. We use a lot of technology in some ways, but it can be very low tech in others. But then you get into the sophistication of this, right? I was saying how unsophisticated
Yeah.
that garbage is. And I will say at the same time,
There's some really good stuff.
the quality of the image generation today, it used to be go look at the hands, because AI used to be terrible
Yep.
at hands. AI is not bad at hands now. Hands look fine. Go look at like text in the background. And AI can do text, a lot of it can do reasonable text, and it's not a dead giveaway anymore. And it's so realistic looking. It can really just make you second guess. Like,
Well,
I know what to look for. And I sometimes go, I can't tell if this is AI or not.
what's
And I
funny
hate feeling that way.
is when I show something to my wife and she'll say, "Oh, that's AI generated." I'm like, "No, it's not." Like now her default when she sees something that is so, unbelievable or cool, like she assumes that it's just AI generated content now.
That's probably a good thing. We should have a skepticism by default behavior, but it also is sad. But to the same time, we say that, and those of us, it's that Dunning-Kruger effect, where the more you know about something, the more you realize you don't know. It's like a proven thing. So, like, for example, like let's say you're a pilot of light aircraft. You can fly like a Cessna, and you are qualified to do that. And someone would be like, "Well, hey, the pilots became incapacitated on your Airbus A350 flying across the Atlantic Ocean. Could you land the plane?" And the Cessna pilot knows enough to know I would have a real hard time. It would be really difficult. But then some guy who's been playing like Microsoft Flight Simulators, I was like, "Yeah, I'll be fine. We'll be good. I can land it, no problem." Like the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. It's actually a thing. So like ignorant people tend to overestimate their skills versus smart people tend to underestimate their skills. Is the point I'm getting at? Um, we Anyone who's listening to the show who has done phishing training knows there are a certain group of people that will click on everything no matter what. And so you have an executive admin that if they get a phone call and it sounds like their CEO and they say to do a wire transfer to this bank account right now, this is critical to close an M&A, they may just do it because the boss said so. And we haven't that risk is so tremendous and so real right now. That's not even a 2026 thing. That's like a 2024 thing that can totally, it's just going to ramp up over time. And those are the things like that keep me up at night.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a tremendous real risk. And then in our personal lives, Andy, absolutely, because we have more than enough voice content to imitate our voices saying anything. So we need all of our families to know, like, hey, you really got to validate any phone call you get from me. Like you mentioned, having a secret word is a good way to start. But don't trust any just random phone call you get. You can spoof the phone number. You can spoof my voice. We have to question everything. That default skepticism that your wife has is a really healthy place to start. It's a huge problem, and it's not going to get better. It's only getting worse, and the technology just continuously it approves. And you had something on here, one of your notes. Add anomaly detection to speech and video authentication systems to identify vocal behavior that deviates from the norm. Just don't use speech verification. Like that.
Yeah.
That is already completely an untrust channel. If you have anything that uses voice, it's already cracked. Talk about like broken encryption, like quantum, like that is broken. You cannot trust that. Video maybe is on its way. It's not there yet, but it's coming too. So be vigilant.
Okay, so the next one is the attack surface grows as IoT and edge and device proliferation is growing. And so every connected object is going to be a way in. This is no surprise, but I do think this is an area of opportunity for a lot of organizations. Knowing what IoT and OT devices you have on your network, even stuff from 5G or 6G deployment. So you're going to see that these things are going to be susceptible if you have weaker embedded devices inside of the main data center. Devices that can't easily upgrade your firmware, these are going to be things to worry about. Or if they come with weak default passwords, they're going to just be easy targets. Botnets, DDoS attacks, supply chain penetration activities are going to leverage these distributed device fleets. Really important to have device lifecycle management, patching, provisioning, decommissioning of these IoT and OT devices. Zero trust at the device and access level means that you need to think of every device on your network as something that might be hacked. And also vendor or integration risks are on the rise because a lot of devices are manufactured by other companies. And so treat them as part of your supply chain. Yeah, I think again, this is spot on. This has been on the rise for many years. I think in the Microsoft security report, this was one of the bigger ones as well. So got to get some IoT and OT threat detection.
Yeah, I don't think a lot to add here. I don't see this as a particularly new for 2026 threat. Continuing to grow, of course, as we continue to see more IoT and edge devices proliferate, but I don't see it as anything new. And this is something that I think security teams have had ample warning about. That your footprint's continuing to grow, what you're being asked to secure is continually growing, and you need to make sure you wrap your arms around it in all the ways you just mentioned, Andy.
I do think this is a blind spot also for a lot of security defenders because a lot of like IoT devices, for example, might be your security cameras. And maybe you have, like at my previous company, we had a physical security team that operated the cameras. They procured the hardware, they monitored the software. And so, we had to work with them because it was kind of like, that's a camera thing. It's not really a information security thing to look at, but they're on the network. And if they're on the network, you need to monitor them. I think this is something, like you said, it's not new. It's something that a lot of organizations have area of improvement.
Well, you and I both spent a lot of time supporting manufacturing customers over the last half decade. And one thing that we commonly observed is that their cybersecurity teams tended to be in the IT organization, and they were responsible for securing IT. But anytime they would remotely sniff around over operational technology, operations, they would get their hands slapped and told to go away. Ops did not want them anywhere near it. And I partly get that. And folks, part of it is our own fault because we've been seen as a blocker to the business, as Dr. No, as someone who does not enable business to get done. And operations literally operates with the 180 degrees opposite perspective. Their goal is maximum uptime, maximum productivity, maximum throughput. Anything that detracts from that goal is absolute cancer to them. And so if IT security starts sniffing around their stuff, you have a reputation, deserve it or not, that you're just going to mess it up. And they don't want you anywhere near it. And so we have to earn the right to have a seat at that table. But that is one of the major risk factors moving forward for any organization that has major OT footprint or IoT footprint. And those can be very different things depending on what your organization looks like. But we've got to start making inroads in those spaces. Because when I did that last time around, 3, 4, 5 years ago, every cybersecurity org I worked with had no visibility, no control, no seat at the table, no input into any of that. And it's risk that ultimately could impact them.
For this next one, again, I don't think this is anything new. This is something that has been kind of growing as well, but cybercrime will grow into corporate class businesses. The threat actor economy keeps getting bigger. So expect that cybercrime activity in 2026 to be more business like units rather than gangs. Couple of things that to note: ransomware and extortion will grow into whole ecosystems with things like affiliate models, subscription service, encrypted laundering. Again, this is something that has been on the rise for a long time, so no surprise here. One of the things I thought was interesting is kind of change your way. They talked about in this article, change your way of thinking about threat actor groups. See them as business competitors and not just secret hackers. So you want to be able to predict their service offerings, tools as a service, customer support for victims. Business continuity and reputation will also be important as part of incident response, since the effects will reach beyond technology. Relying solely on technology will not suffice. So instead, look at resiliency, leadership, and culture to be the key strategic differentiators. Yeah, I agree with this one here. Nothing new.
Yeah, again, overall, this is a good list, but this is absolutely not new. I know I've been talking about this before 2020, like pre-COVID, we were talking about how these gangs were evolving into professional businesses. They had support operations,
They hire
you know,
people. They have like
they
HR.
right, exactly. So this is not new. I think the continued sophistication and growth of them, and I do like the call out of changing your mindset, where if you don't see these as these one-off gangs, but you see them again as very sophisticated professional organizations that ultimately they're trying to make money too. They're trying to make money at your detriment, but they are very focused on their desirable outcomes. And so helping to shift your mindset to that lens on most of them are not just there to wreak havoc. They're not just there to cause problems for funsies.
Yeah,
They're
they
there to
want
make
money.
money.
Yep.
They want money. They have a business to operate too. And so when you shift your mindset to that's how they operate, it can help you more effectively defend against them.
The last one on the list, and then I'm going to have a bonus one because I want to talk about it. But this last one, I think, Adam, you alluded to, where companies need to see cybersecurity as a strategic pillar, as a whole business, and not just an IT cost center. This is something that has been shifting a while. And if you haven't shifted that mindset, I think it's time to get on the train here. You got a lot of problems that we've talked about on this show, in particular, AI threat vectors, quantum risk, synthetic identities. They all require coordination at the business level, board level engagement, and a shift in that culture at your company. And so executives need to make that CISO or whoever is in that position, whatever the title is, a strategic business partner and have that seat at the table. Things like threat blocked or cyber resilience metrics should be part of that list of metrics that are tracked and what CISOs are graded on. Time to recover, adaptability, incident containment matters. Like instead of just looking at, I think like a lot of CISOs in general are just set up to fail at companies because they're charged with guarding something, but then they don't have the say of like how to do it or the budget to do what they want to do. And so like if you're accepting a risk on behalf of the company, like that needs to be stated. And so the CISO or whoever is in charge of security should have a say in what is going on there. So, um, you want to embed like ethical, legal, operational alignment in cybersecurity from the boardroom down. Narrative shifts from preventing all attacks to managing risk and enabling the business.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you knew what was coming, Adam. Cultivate that security aware culture. Threats increasingly target human and identity vectors, so employees will become that front line. Adam has this saying, lifting tide
Rising tide
Rising
lifts
tide.
all ships.
Yeah. So structure that public private cooperation, supply chain coordination, threat intelligence sharing. No organization is an island. So yeah, I think this is great. This is again something that a lot of companies need to do. Like CISOs aren't actually like part of that C suite a lot of times. They sometimes report to the CIO. And so they're like a little C instead of like a big C, if you want to think of it like that. So that really needs to change. Like I think CISOs need to have, or maybe a CSO. I've heard of like a chief security officer, something like that. But they need to be in the room with the big boys and girls. They need to be the big C, report directly to the CEO, you know,
Yeah, totally agree with everything here. And again, I think not a ton of this is new in this case, but I like some of the language here around things, especially that narrative shift from prevent all attacks to manage risk and enable the business. And that's something we struggle at as Americans. We see absolute risk reduction, like above all else, of preventing as much risk as possible as a goal, as opposed to managing risk. And it creates some weird behaviors sometimes. And so I get that it's cultural and it's bigger than just business, it's bigger than just corporate America. But this is a good place to implement that. And I realize our show is worldwide. And so not everyone listening to the show is an American, but just commenting on what I know about our culture is we struggle with that. And when we export our culture, sometimes we export that too. In America, we have this very litigious mindset, and that if there was any risk whatsoever, that is a legal failing and there's an opportunity for legal recourse. And sometimes organizations, especially those that have very powerful legal teams or have a lot of legal representation at the senior executive level, they adopt that mindset as well. And really, ultimately, with cybersecurity today, we cannot eliminate all risk. So it's focusing on what risks can we accept, what risk can we manage down, and how can we manage it down in a way that still enables the successful operation of the business. And that's how we earn a seat at the table to go talk to folks in operations when we have proven we have that mindset. And we're not just going to come in and try to shut down their production line because we need to patch all their Windows systems or whatever. And they're just like, forget it. I'm not talking to you because you're going to ruin all my metrics. So this is a great call out. And ultimately, we continue to see this mindset shift evolve. I think I continue to see cybersecurity up leveled inside of most organizations. I see security defenders having a seat at more and bigger tables all of the time. And I see continued growth in this space. I'm very bullish on where this is headed. And I think we have done a good job of up leveling ourselves from being that cost center, that doc, to being that consultative risk partner that helps enables the business to be successful while managing risk at the same time. And that's where we need to get to.
Yeah. And one of the bonus things I think was left off this list that I think needs to be included is data security. I think data security is going to be, in the age of AI and everything that's coming, data security is probably one of the most important initiatives at any organization if you do not have a program already put together. So have, a program to discover your sensitive data, look at DLP. It's not just like blocking just, USBs in general. It's looking at what is getting siphoned off, enabling that business, but also having some sort of tool to prevent data exfiltration, encrypt it, sensitive labels, whatever solution you're using, you got to have a data security program, because in the age of AI where you can just copy paste, code into chat GPT, the age of vibe coding, people are just generating things, they're tossing things into enterprise AI tools and copying data straight into there and then training LLMs on your sensitive data. And so I think that is something that's left off this list, but one of the most important things going into that new year.
That's a great bonus. I like it a lot. Data security, I continue to see a lot of effort needs to be poured into that at organizations. And I will just remind everyone, it's not just a tooling problem, because most of the tooling has been around for a very long time and is not substantially, and when I say substantially, I mean at its core function, changed. It's your organization's willingness to change and adopt and be a secure data security company moving forward. That is where I see the biggest challenge. It's not that you need the tools to catch up. It's that you need the top to bottom buy-in of we are going to implement this. That's where the challenge tends to lie in my experience. And so I think organizations hopefully will really make leaps and bounds in 2026 on data security because you kind of have to. And while it's super important, at this point, you're going to have to build the plane while you fly it. Because if your organization's going to say, we're going to shut down all AI initiatives until we get our data security house in order, you're going to put yourself 18 months behind everyone else. And in modern business, that is not a healthy place to be. So you're going to have to implement a robust data security strategy while you're also rolling AI out and just making continuous improvement to your data security posture, because you can't stop all the risk day one, and nor should you try, because it's just too slow, too long, too late. So you got to do both at the same time. They have to be parallel efforts, and you can do that. That's certainly possible, and you'll learn as you go. But I love that call out, Andy, and I think that's a great add-on, and a great one to end on would be, definitely focus on data security in 2026. If you are not where you want to be, let's make tangible steps toward getting there.
Yeah, I think like in general, if you ask any CEO, like what do they lose sleep over at night, right? It's usually your data getting stolen. And it's hard because it's like a security initiative, but it involves the entire business. Like we can't, as defenders, tell you what's important in engineering or what's important in HR or what is sensitive data in legal, so you need representatives, like Adam said, like top-down representation to say, we need to figure out what is sensitive and then dictate on how to protect that. Just like I said in a previous show, you can't defend what you don't know. And so you got to do that discovery first and then have a strategy going forward. So yeah. And this is a really good show, I think, in general, to kind of like, if you have someone in the executive position to kind of share, because this is just in general kind of the threats that are coming across the board in cybersecurity. I think as defenders, this is not a surprise to us, kind of sharing these type of trends with your C-suite, with your board. That's really where you can get that support, budget, and whatever you need going into that new year.
Love it.
All right. Well, that's our show for this week. Last one for the year. Thanks for listening and watching as always. We wish you a great holiday, Happy New Year, and we will see you in 2026. Our contact information will be in the show notes if you have any questions or topics you want us to talk about, as well as the link to the article that we used for the show. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next year.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Security Podcast. Please check out the show notes, catch up on episodes you may have missed, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Find Andy on Twitter @AJaw0 and Adam @AJ Brewer. See you at our next episode.